Mike Williams, 2006 Time Man of the Year. Well, not really. But Mike, we're here to celebrate your many years of service with Gwinnett County. So sit back and enjoy.
Hey Mike, it's a great day for us to be able to say a few words in honor of your retirement. Who would ever thought you had spent the amount of time you have with Gwinnett County? I know that everyone's going to be really disappointed to have you disappear from the staff meetings and I can't believe that we're splitting up the filibuster team of the universe. They're going to be short one member. I'm not sure who's going to fill that role at Gwinnett County anymore. I certainly appreciate all the help you gave me over time, your political savvy, and sometimes, yeah, it was good to have your pessimism to tell us just how bad things could potentially be.
You're such a great guy. You're a fantastic member of the community. You're active with the community. You're active with the church. I couldn't think of anything negative to say about you. Mark, you're just a pillar of the community. What's that? It's not Mark Williams? Oh, it's Mike Williams? Oh, yeah, he's a good guy too, yeah. One of the things that people don't realize about Mike is that he's very affectionate. Don't let his gruff appearance fool you. When I first met Mike, it was 1993, and I was here for about a week when Mike came up to me and said, "Boy, you ain't from around here, are you?" That was a little bit awkward for me that he would have such a public display of affection. I said that he would think of me as his boy, as his son, and to invite me into the family like that, it still brings tears to my eyes.
On the funny side of things, as a planning director, I can remember what stands out the most is I'd call Mike into my office with this wonderful idea I had about a change in conditions of a zoning, or perhaps it would be a tweak in the policy or of a regulation involving development. And I did a lot of research before I asked him to come in, because I knew, without a doubt, Mike was always going to say no. He always said no. So I was always prepared for that, and I knew I would have to beg and plead sometimes if I ever got him to change his stance on rigid policy.
The great thing about Mike is you never have to guess where you stand. Every time I would call Mike, he'd always answer the phone the same way. The answer is no. What do you want?
One of the first lessons I learned from Mike, he told me, always tell people no if there's anything in doubt. I can go back as a director and fix a no, and I look good. If you tell someone yes and I have to go fix it, I don't look so good.
One of the things Mike would do to intimidate people was not to give them much of an opportunity to speak. He would, when you came in Mike's office, he had to say what he wanted to say first, and then after he was finished, he might allow you to get your point across.
Sometimes with Mike, you're not quite sure, you may start a subject, but he may be on another subject, so sometimes you're not talking about the same thing. So a lot of times you'll ask him a question or you go in for a particular thing, but he's talking about something entirely different, but you don't realize it till after you start scratching your head and thinking, wait a minute, this isn't what I came in here for. So, or he may be completely off on a different subject.
He loves to golf, and I always go back to Tom Lawler. We were out playing with Tom Lawler one day, and Mike has, let's say he makes Jim Furyk's swing look smooth. It's all discombobulated in an around the world way to hit a golf ball, and Tom Lawler put it very well. He said, "Mike, I would hate to be your brain when you get through playing golf." And of course, Mike White, he says, it has got to be worn out trying to get back square to the ball with that swing you've got. You have to wear out your brain doing that.
I guess I never thought you'd make it to retirement. Used to wonder. Tommy used to say I was going to fire you every day, and I guess you got the feeling that way some days. But I guess my biggest thing is whenever I think about you is how I used to get accused of calling downstairs every day whenever you were headed out to play golf. I never could figure out why you or Kevin or Tommy, any of you wasn't any better than you were as much golf as you played.
As much as I admire you professionally, I value your friendship even more, whether playing golf with a guy named Animal at Jekyll Island a few years ago, playing pool with rambunctious and sharp-tongued South Georgia planters up in the mountains.
Most of my experience with Mike had to do with playing golf and some other leisurely activities, and that might be almost as combative as the zoning process. If you watch Mike on the golf course, you know, he's the only guy I've ever known that had he could take annual leave every day of the week because he'd come in and work after midnight, I think, and work till daylight so he could be on the golf course. But Mike's like me, that's not going to be his lasting legacy, his golf prowess.
One of Mike's pet peeves is what he refers to as man sandals. And he wouldn't be caught dead in man sandals, and he doesn't want anybody else to wear man sandals either. Another thing that he has an issue with is what he calls man purses, the little satchels or book bags or whatever that you see a lot of men with now. So for fun, one year on Boss's Day, we bought him what we called a man purse. It was a pink fanny pack that he has displayed on his bookcase. We haven't managed to get him to use it yet.
There are two kinds of planners that I've encountered. There are the planners who are kind of wide-eyed and want to make the world a better place to be. And then there are the people who want to run the world. And I'll leave it to you to decide which Mike is.
Mike and I have ridden in cars on long zoning rides all over the county for the next 9-10 years. Some of those were very long car rides, and we've seen the county change a lot.
I particularly am impressed with Mike's leadership when it came to the overlay districts that they started with the Mall of Georgia and then have done at Discover Mills, and I know there's some other ones in the county. I think that's good. Business development follows quality, and if you raise the standards, people will meet the standards and exceed the standards, and we owe Mike a great debt of gratitude for having done that and shown some real leadership in tough times when not everybody was for that.
Mike, when I think about your career, I think about maybe some of those embarrassing moments that we all had. And I remember once when I knew that you didn't know the answer, and neither did I, and your face got a little red, and you sort of ducked your head with that cute little laugh of yours, and then you just sort of mumbled under your breath, and I think the chairman looked at me and said, "Did you get your answer?" And I said, "I think I did."
Mike is such an affectionate guy. I remember one time I was in his office and he says, "Get the hell out of my office." Which really meant to me, get the hell out of my office before I get over there and give you a great big hug. But that's the kind of guy he is, just affectionate.
We had a little problem with a mouse that was getting into a couple of different folks' desk drawers at night, and they were nibbling on the candy or whatever kind of food items they had in their desk drawers. So one of our coworkers, Dale Melton, took it upon himself to build a mousetrap. And it was like a live trap so that it wouldn't hurt the animal. One morning we came in and the trap was sprung, and we thought maybe we had a mouse in the trap. So Dale came and took the trap out of the desk, and he had a little window on it, but he couldn't really tell. He was looking to see if the mouse was in the box or not in the box, and he couldn't really tell, so he was looking at it, and he slowly opened the door, and lo and behold, the mouse came out and shot right over his shoulder. Now everybody had been standing around watching to see if he had the mouse, and everybody is scattered, coffee cups flying, and the mouse hit the floor and took off and found a hiding spot.
One of the things, when I thought about it, I remembered that wreath caper. Do you remember that? We were at a planning commission around Christmas time,
The auditorium was decorated, and right before I left, I turned around and said goodbye, and you and Stacy Britt, then planning commissioner, were standing in front of the wreath. I said goodnight. I left. Next morning we get to work, and lo and behold, the detectives were up there. They wanted to question everybody that was at the planning commission that night. So I was like, wow, you know, and they took me in the office, in your office, by the way, and they shut the door and said, we want to talk to you. And of course I was nervous. I thought, what in the heck? They said the wreath disappeared from the meeting last night, and there had been a formal report. And I said, oh, and they said, well, had you seen it? And I said, yes, when I walked out the door, it was there. I remember because I turned around and saw Mike and Stacy standing in front of it. And they said, and they were the last two that you saw in front of the wreath? I said, yes, they were about the last two in the meeting. So, of course, you were questioned. And you didn't talk to me much for a while after that. I mean, I knew you weren't really involved, but it was just that I had to say, you are the last person that I saw standing in front of the missing wreath.
Sometimes we would set Mike up, and on commission day, it would be a very tense time on the second floor, and either Tommy or Kevin or one would come in my office and say, Mike, the chairman wants to see you, and he's not in a good mood. Well, Mike would just sort of just melt right on the spot, and we would just crack up as he walked out the door.
We're going to show you the real Mike Williams. Let's start over here in the corner. A lot of plans, a busy man. You can tell that Mike Williams is a hard worker, reading material for people who come to see him. Today's paper, he stays up on current events. He also keeps old papers, so he can go back and reference when he needs to. We know Mike is a great golfer. We've heard that. Here's a nice picture. I thought at first it was his wife, but it's Gwen Stefani. She's a singer, and someone said she was similar to Madonna. This is the desk of a hard-working person. Calculator, papers, plans. This must be the real Mike. And finally, his pride and joys. I'm sure another picture of his children. What a lovely family.
We always kidded Mike about his cars. I think he loved antique cars or classic cars, or he was just one of those that was maybe a little too tight to buy a new one.
He got the sports car fever and started looking at sports cars. That was his, his one-track mind issue. He seems to be on a motorcycle kick. And the only thing we're worried about at this point is that he's going to come into the office with leather pants on and disrupt the whole group.
I remember being in the car with him at one point, and I was surprised he liked opera music. And I remember it being very loud, and I thought, well, that was totally outside of what I would think his personality would be.
Put in a position to shine like a star, accomplishments placed in plaques on walls.
The last time I rode with him in his new car, his Infiniti, it was rap music. So I decided he's really becoming in the groove the older he gets.
Now, the one thing that Mike has spent most of his time obsessing about since I've worked for him is retirement. He has really focused on how much money he had, how much money he would get, what the amount of his pay increase would do to his ultimate retirement check.
Mike, do you remember when the signs used to be red and white? They were white with a red border, and we would write the text in, and people would call the department and say, I can't see that sign as I'm whizzing down the highway on that rezoning notice.